Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. So it's been a while since I've done like a little micro jam or anything like that. And now with the Push 3 out and about, there's just been a huge number of people buying into the Push sort of workflow and getting into Ableton for the first time. So I thought I would go sort of back in time and cover one of the sort of very basic sort of ideas behind how to perform using a push in Ableton with the workflow. I think everybody's pretty clear on how to do live looping and how to basically do a jam, right? Or a drone or an ambient piece where you sort of pick a tonal center and you stay there forever. But sometimes what I miss, when I'm performing that way, is I miss having sort of drama, like having some changes, right? An A part and a B part, and being able to go back and forth between the two, without it being either too jarring, where everything sort of stops and you move. Any idea you had developed stops, and as you move to the B part, and the B is a different idea completely. Which, I mean, that's a stylistic choice too. But like, don't let the technology. Let's put it this way: it's easy to sometimes let the technology drive you into a compositional space where you have to write your music in a certain way due to the limitations of the gear you're using. Okay. That is not the case here. I'm not saying it is the case anywhere else specifically. Okay. This isn't, again, a tribal thing. This is just what I'm talking about here works on anything. And it involves having some sequencing going on. All right. So what we're looking at here is I have a set prepared that has some scenes in it, okay? And the scenes are related but different, right? An A part and a B part, or in this case, a few different parts, an intro, an A part, a B part, and an outro kind of behavior. And I've got instruments already set up here that I have, picked my sound palette, right? I've picked the colors that I'm going to be using, and I don't mean these colors. I mean the colors of the timbres, the tones, right? And so what I'll do is I'm going to go through and show you the sounds I've picked, tell you how I made them at a very high level, right? This isn't a sound design video. And I'm going to then do a little performance here where I'll show you how I move through these scenes. And I got to say, I've used to do this. I do this a lot, right? This is my normal sort of performance workflow, but I'm surprised at how easy it is with this new sort of clip view on the Push, because I'm so used to having to take my note control away, because this is how we used to do it, right? We'd go to the session view to see our clips here. But now that you can see them up here, I never actually have to get rid of my notes. So I can keep playing and go cue up the next scene and then hit the jog wheel to do the transition. It's really fun, I gotta say. And very, it's much smoother than it used to be. It used to be a nerve-wracking thing to it would impact your composition. Like I couldn't hold a note. I couldn't be holding a note down and then flip over to a clip, launch it, and then go back and have the note be held. Now I can actually do that, dial up whatever and hit it. I'm still pretty green with it. It's like I haven't performed for very long with this thing. I've only had it a couple of weeks. But anyway, so let's talk about these sounds and then we'll do a quick performance here, okay? So I am all entirely in the box today. I'm not using any hardware, all right? And I've got 8 tracks set up. And so what I've got is a few synthy sounds. I'm going for my style of music. I don't know what to call it. It's some melange of prog rock, Berlin school, synth rock, I don't know, jazz. I'm not a jazz musician, so I have no street cred for jazz, okay? But I like jazz, and I'm certainly influenced by it. And the instruments I'm using today are a mix of third-party and Ableton internal stuff. So let's sort of touch on them, take them apart very quickly at a high level, and go from there, okay? So here's my first sound. All right. So that is literally going to be this sparkle wash that I will periodically sprinkle into here in 1 or 2 places, okay? So what is this? So this is Opsix native. Okay, so this is Opsix from Korg. All right, I have both the hardware and the software version of this. So you could say I'm using hardware today, but just in the box. And that is sort of the source of the sound. I've got a bunch of processing in front of it. These are all my own utilities, right? They're things that I've just sort of slapped together. I like to be able to quickly transpose through octaves. That's what this sort of preset is, or this device, I should say. It has some snapshots of 3 octaves down to 3 octaves up, and I can basically click through here as needed, right? And I've also got some pitch and velocity controls in here that I like to do. I'm not going to drill into exactly what this is. This is a tool I use when I'm composing that's turned off right now. I use the utility device a lot. If you need to do any gain staging between devices, or you want to just sort of have something that you can affect the stereo width with, or pan something easily at the surface level, utility is a great plugin. And so it'll do, it's just literally, think of it in the modular terms. It's basically just a VCA that I can use. And then I've got a bank of modulation effects that I'm not actually using. And then I've got some reverb effects that are in here. And these are a mix of, I'm using the Ableton Reverb for a room ambience, I should say room ambience. I'm using the Ableton Reverb to push something back on the soundstage if I choose to. The more I turn up this dial, the further away the sound sounds. I'm not going to demonstrate it with this particular patch because this synth patch is not quite the same. It'll be easier when I get to one of the other instruments. But this little reverb rack lets me move things forward and backwards on the soundstage, give it room ambience, and then also give it the big, giant, spacey black hole ambiences if I choose. All right. And I use this basically as a device preset, and I drop it anywhere I need to do reverb manipulation. All right. I'm not saying I don't use other reverbs, but that's basically it. And that's, oh, I didn't tell you. So that's Live's reverb, as well as the Valhalla, which Valhalla is this? A Valhalla Room and Valhalla Supermassive, right? So yes, they're all running in series, right? So the Ableton reverb feeds into the Valhalla reverb that feeds into the other Valhalla reverb. And I don't use them all the time. If you turn them dial down completely, it's just dry, right? But here, let me, when I get over to one of the other instruments, I'll give you a demonstration of what I mean by moving things forward and backwards on the soundstage. Okay. So that's our first instrument, right? It's an Opsix, right? With a lot of ambience on it, all right? Next, we are running a Modwave. So I wanted to play with some of the Korg synths today. So this one's really simple. I've got my sort of pitch and velocity controls here, just running into the Modwave native synth, and I am using a preset called Cassini that I've tweaked slightly. I mean, I just found a sound that I thought worked, and it sounds like. That's like well named. Cassini? Yeah, sure, that's space. So we're going to make use of that. Next comes, let's see, the final Korg, the Wavestate. And again, it's just my utilities running directly into the Wavestate. And this is not an arpeggiation, but a rhythmic thing. And I use it for a low end. If you haven't dug into the Wavestate, I'm really, really liking this synth, but you have to read the manual. There is no way you're going to be able to come in here and use this synth without doing a little reading. It's just very deep and very complex. I'm not going to say confusing. It's not confusing if you read what everything does, but you literally have to go through and understand what you're looking at on the overview, the synth setup, the wave sequencing. This is probably the deepest panel. It's very, very deep. All the modulation is here as well. And then the rest of the stuff. But Wavestate. Right, and that's going to run synced to the clock. And then I've got a lead sound, which is a layer of a Modwave. It's a layer of this. Right? And that's let's look at that. Modwave. And it's just playing a string patch, which I didn't tweak. And that is got a little effect being applied to it. No, actually, I've got it turned off, so it's really just straight out of the Modwave. Behind it is some delay and some reverb. And then it's layered with Omnisphere's Paul Reed Smith guitar samples. Right, and so I layer those together. All right, that's going to be our lead sound here. And then piano. All right, so let's talk about the reverb here. So as you can hear, this is totally being washed, right? And so I've got 3 reverbs being applied here. I'm going to turn them all off. So here's our dry piano. Right, and this is from Keyscape, from Spectrasonics. So the live room reverb, I keep saying room, it is a room reverb, but I'm using it to move things forward and backwards on the soundstage. Listen to what happens as I turn this up. So the piano's right in your face. Right, I'm pushing it away from us. So what I do is I leave that up just a bit to soften it. I don't want it right here. Right? You can't see this. The camera's not looking at my head. I don't want it 2 inches from my nose. I want it out a bit. I want it sitting on the stage over there. Now, that's the sound of where the piano is, right? But I also want to change. I want you to think that it's in a hall. It's sort of in a larger space. So that sound is running into the Valhalla room reverb, which as I bring up, right, nice little. So the piano is now sitting over there on the stage, and the stage is in a larger room. And then I've got that feeding into a Valhalla Supermassive to give me, I still have the sound of the piano over there in a room, but then I've also got this sort of ambient wash that comes up behind it, like this. And that sort of frozen tail that goes way out, that doesn't sound anything like a room. But that is how I use those reverbs. I stack those reverbs that way. It may not be the most efficient way to do it because it does chew up a lot of CPU. But I'm blessed with enough CPU, so I'm okay. All right. And then so that's a piano. Although I don't think I'm going to use a piano much in this piece. But I do have this Rhodes, which is set up the same way. We've got our pitch and velocity controls. I am using Keyscape again. Keyscape has a nice Rhodes in it. All right. I've got a little compression on it because, like the Rhodes, if you give it a lot of velocity, it will honk at you. And I'm taming that with a compressor. All right. Running that through a utility to sort of gain stage in a way that's convenient for me. I could play with the output here. And And then it's going through a little phaser. And then into our reverb, which is doing the same thing as I demonstrated on the piano. It's pushing it back on the soundstage. I'm not giving it any room reverb, but I do want some of that space ambience. All right, so that'll be in there. And then we're doing I'm a bass player. I've always been a bass player. I like Rickenbacker basses. I've been using this Rick bass sound for years. It's on my last EP. It's on everything before that. And we've got a big fat delay. All right, and the only MPE thing that I'm actively using is some MPE drums, a little MPE drum kit. And I got to say, this is awesome. I'm not a great figure drummer, but being able to, this is something I love. So if you take the ride, right, and if you slide on the pad, you can move from the edge to the center to the bell of the ride just by. That's frickin' awesome. And you can also open and close the hat. That's great. Anyway, so we're going to play with this. We're going to play with that. Anyway, so really that's about it. So let's make some noise. So that's how the pieces fit together. Oh, let's talk about the actual set. So what's going on here? So Ableton works in scenes. Okay, so time flows down over the course of the set in this view, right? And so I'm going to start out with the first scene. The only thing that's currently pre-programmed is a little drum loop. And I'm going to fiddle around and I'm going to record some parts into each of these empty slots. And that's like live looping. I'm going to just put that in there. But I've prepared some parts already in here. So this is kind of like working with a backing track. I'm not using audio. I'm using MIDI and going out and controlling the synths. And if I was to go play this live, I would probably freeze all of these and turn them into just pure audio to reduce all the chances of CPU working with a VST or an effect and, having a crash or something like that. I've reached the point in my life where if I'm going to go perform live, I'll give you my real performance on the instruments playing the voices, but the underlying chord progression and rhythm and stuff like that, it's really just backing tracks. And for people who, there's a spectrum where it's like, no, I will have sequencers that are prepared with patterns that will go play stuff like my synths or my units. And then I'll play along with that. That's effectively the same thing, except that you're still having the sequences drive the synths live as opposed to freezing that to audio and then placing audio clips in here. And that's fine. But my friend Bob actually had a performance where he was doing performance with his, I think it was modular and a Moog 1 and something else, the Osmos, right? He was doing this performance and his modular, believe it or not, I don't want to disparage the maker, the clocking system on his modular fritzed out, and he couldn't get it fixed, right? Or I think it killed his performance and he had to start over or just muddle through, use an alternate clock or something like that. I don't know. This is what he told me. I didn't actually see it, but it was public at a large venue, right? So where people had paid money to come see. So, in the discussion I had with him, he's like, yeah, I'm basically going to use backing tracks for the most part. I'm going to render the things that I'm not actively playing down to audio. And I kind of agree with him. And the Push and Ableton, that's one of the things they're really good at. So yeah, you can sequence if you want, or you can render to audio. But basically, you choose the level of risk and complexity you need to do in your thing. So what we're looking at in this set is a scene that's mostly empty. That's going to start playing. I'm going to lay a few loops down inside it to get the feel of the thing going. And then we're going to move through the scenes and I'm going to play the main voice lines and a few embellishments over top of the stuff. All right. So let's see how it goes. All right. Let's see. And off we go. All right, so there's our first loop, right? And that's playing. You can see it on the screen. These are the MIDI I just recorded, right? We'll add another little sparkle here. We'll switch to another synth, and we'll just put a bed down. I'm not going to record it, just going to play. Switch to another synth, lay down a different part. This is that Wavestate. Now this is the part that I couldn't do before the Push 3, because I'm going to prep the next scene and just start it. And then to the next scene. And we will put a little piano in here. Start bringing stuff out. that's it. So that's one way that you can perform. This is how I like to perform. And basically, I build out a big set of the parts and pieces that I want to do. Individual songs come in sections. And really, that's how it works. So I hope this was useful. Really, if you have any questions or things you want me to try or things that you want explained in more detail, let me know. But that's basically how I perform these days, both on stream and live, right? I haven't streamed actually in a while. I should probably stream soon. But really, that's it. I hope this was helpful. And as always, hey, thanks for spending time with me. My name is Luke, and you have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great day.